Hello everyone and welcome to the next tutorial on our channel, The Power of Excel. In this tutorial, we're going to demonstrate two different types of formatting styles, manual formatting and format as table, using the same data set, followed by a few thumb rules which we can use for formatting the data and benefits of formatting the data in front of us. Let's get started. So this is the data set which is there in front of you, which needs to be formatted. Typically, whenever we start the formatting, the very first step that we should always focus on is to border the entire data in front of us. So for bordering this data, we'll have to select the entire data set. And for doing that, you need to press Ctrl plus A by clicking anywhere on the data. Once this is done, go to the borders under the font group on the home tab and click on all borders. Once this is done, we need to focus our attention on the header row, which is the first row in this data set, and make sure that this row stands out as compared to the rest of the data. For doing that, there are two things that we usually do. One, we center align this data, and second, we bold whatever data is there in the header row. Let's do that. So for making the content bold, you need to click on Ctrl plus B, that is for bold, and followed by the center line, which is there under the alignment group on the home tab itself. Once we are done with the header row, we need to focus our attention on the remaining data. So typically the numeric data, if it is there in front of us, we need to make sure that we center align this data. If, as you can see, serial number and roll number data, which is there, is numeric in nature, and we need to center align this data by selecting this data set by clicking on Control Shift and down after selecting the first row. This is one of the shortcuts as far as selection of data is concerned. And then click on center line. Just to check whether this is center line or not, you can just broaden the width of the roll number column. This looks good now. Now coming to the alphanumeric data, typically we use the left aligned option for this. So by default, which is there by default, and full name, program, section, all this data is there as left aligned. One option that we can sometimes use for alphanumeric data, in case the width of the data is almost same or similar, is that we can center line that data as well. For example, if you talk about MBA, BABD, 1 MBA 3 and 3 TG2, this data looks to be of the same width and typically can be center aligned in this particular case. So let's select this data by selecting the first row. And then, as I had mentioned earlier, Control Shift and down, and then click on center align. Then again, if you see quiz 1, quiz 2, and quiz, these three columns are having numeric data values. So we'll have to center align this by selecting the first row first, and then doing a Control Shift and down, and then clicking on center align. So as far as formatting is concerned and aligning is concerned, we're done with the aligning part of it. So let's add some different colors and styles so as to make the data more visible. So for doing that, we should always ensure that the header row and the remaining data are having two different formats. So let's do that. So for the first row, that is the header row, let's highlight this in typical cells, shade something which makes the data attractive, not too jazzy, but makes it look good. Something like this. And then for the remaining data, use a different shade styles. For example, something like this. This looks good. One thing that we should always be careful when we're doing it manually is that these shades that we select should be contrasting with the text which is written. Sometimes very dark colors tend to hide the actual text behind it. So in case we want to make sure that the text is also visible, we should select these shades accordingly. So we are done with the manual formatting. Now let us focus our attention to format as table, which is one of the better options as far as formatting is concerned. We have the same data and we'll use a format as table option, which is given on the home tab again under the styles group. You go to the styles group, you have this format as table option here, and there are different possible options or styles which you can use. Uh, Typically, we should again not go for too jazzy styles, but a decent one which looks professional, right, can be used. Uh, Typically, I use a style which has a black header and then alternative gray and white rows, something like this. So once you select that styling option, it will ask you for the data, which has been selected by default automatically. Now, even this style looks good. And as you can see, most of the data has been formatted automatically, and you don't need to do anything manual tasks on this particular sheet. Although, as you can see, the numeric data is right aligned, but that is completely our call whether we want to keep it right aligned or whether you want to center align. If you want to center align this data, we can do that as well by repeating what we did in case of manual formatting. Is that is required. Also, the header row we can again do a center line, better visibility. Since the first two columns, that is senior number and roll number, are also numeric in nature, we'll center line this as well. Program again, in case it is required, better visibility, we can center line this data also. The benefit of using format as table is that it standardizes the data or any kind of analysis that you want to perform. We're done with this right now. So standardization is one benefit. There are a few other benefits we're going to talk about in the next sheet. So there are a few thumb rules as far as formatting is concerned, and there are a few benefits that are there for formatting the data in front of us. In terms of thumb rules, the text data or alphanumeric data, in case we have that, should be left aligned, which we have already done in the two demonstrations we have just conducted. Next is that the numeric data should be right aligned or center aligned. This is again by choice. In case it is right aligned, it can be kept right aligned also. But in certain cases, even center aligned data looks good. Use format as table wherever applicable or possible. So wherever you have data which has uh, needs to be presented in a professional environment, then we can make use of format as table option. Column headers should be center aligned and in bold to get highlighted. This is something we have already discussed. For better visibility, choose text and background colors carefully while formatting the data manually. That is something we have followed in this particular tutorial. And in case of manual formatting, the header row and the data should have different formatting styles, which we have done, as you can see in the manual formatting sheet, something like this. Next, a rule that we usually follow, a thumb rule which we usually follow is to border the data appropriately wherever and whenever possible. That actually highlights the data in a way that it becomes visible to the end user who is going to perform any kind of analysis or who is actually reading that particular data. And finally, whenever and wherever required, use the format painter option. This is one very good option to format data, and it paints the format of a particular cell on other cells. In one of the subsequent videos, we're going to talk about this format as painter option also, but that will be taken up later. Then a few benefits of formatting this data. So presentation of data is as important as performing any kind of analysis in a typical Excel sheet. Usually we focus too much of our attention on the analysis aspect without bothering about the formatting. But formatting, I believe, is equally important. And the presentation of data and any visualizations or anything is equally important, according to me. Next benefit is that the format as table option standardizes the data for performing analysis. For example, if you go to this format as table option, so all these data values, in case I want to perform any kind of an analysis using, let's say, the quiz values here, we can make use of these cells to actually perform that particular calculation. For example, if I say that I want to sum, which is one of the functions which we are going to talk about in later sessions also, use the sum function on the three columns, that is quiz 1, quiz 2, and quiz. So automatically it takes care of the entire calculation by standardizing the data as quiz 1, 10 to quiz 20, which is it names the columns accordingly. That is what is happening in this particular case. Moving back, also the formatting enables better visibility of the right data to the user, which we have already discussed. And finally, the format as table option automatically creates filters which can be used to filter data as per requirement. Filter is one of the good options in case you want to extract some specific data based on certain conditions. So that filter is automatically getting created as and when we are using this format as table option. So this is the filter option through which we can filter out data based on whatever is our requirement. So that is it for this particular tutorial. Thank you so much for subscribing to our channel. And if you have liked this particular tutorial, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Thank you so much and see you soon in the next video. Thank you.